The speaker is recognized for much such time as she shall consume.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. I thank him for his leadership in bringing this resolution to the floor. I thank him for mentioning my name in the same breath with Aung San Suu Kyi. Compliment me, Mr. Chairman, but you and I know that the sacrifice that she is making and has been making for so many years is incomparable, really, in the world. We have for many years, many of us, Chris Smith, Dana Rohrabacher, John Porter, when he was here, been working on this issue for a very long time. Mr. John Porter and Chairman Lantos co-chaired the Human Rights Caucus, and the issue of Aung San Suu Kyi and repression in Burma has been an important priority for them. It was when John Porter was here as well. And so today we're coming together again following this horrible crackdown in Burma, and I'm pleased to rise in support of the resolution condemning that crackdown on the peaceful protesters in Burma and calling for the immediate release of Burma's democracy leader and Nobel Peace Prize recipient, Aung San Suu Kyi. Again, thank you, Mr. Lantos, for bringing this resolution to the floor. Aung San Suu Kyi has for many decades been a leader on this issue, and she won, as Mr. Lantos mentioned, she won the last democratic election in 1990 and had spent the last decade under house arrest away from her husband and her two children. Who in the world could have the courage and strength that she has had when her husband was ill and was in England and the United Kingdom for his treatment? She could not visit him. When he passed away, she could not attend his funeral. Imagine the personal sacrifice of this great leader. Imagine the turmoil within her. But she understood that the democracy for all people of Burma was more important than the personal needs that she had for her family. What greatness. She has seen her supporters beaten, tortured, and killed, and yet she has never responded with hatred and violence. All she ever asked for was peaceful dialogue. Others have mentioned some of the provisions of the legislation, and I think it's important to continue to mention them. Condemn the crackdown. Demand that Mr. King particularly emphasized the role of China in all of this, and yes, we should act in a bipartisan way, Congressman King. Demand that the People's Republic of China and other countries that provide political and economic support for Burma's military junta end such support. Firmly insist that Burma's military regime begin a meaningful tripartite political dialogue with Aung San Suu Kyi, the National League for Democracy, and ethnic nationalities. Demand the immediate unconditional release of Aung San Suu Kyi, detained monks and other political prisoners and prisoners of conscience. Call on governments around the world, including the nations of the European Union, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to severely tighten their sanctions regime against Burma. Call on the United Nations Security Council to immediately pass a resolution imposing multilateral sanctions on Burma's military regime. Of course, this cannot happen without China's cooperation on the Security Council. That's why their role is so important. It's also important because of the role that they have played in propping up the junta. I'm disappointed but not surprised that China is using its veto power at the UN Security Council to block the condemnation of the recent crackdown. For many years, the Chinese government has helped prop up, again, the Burmese, I think of them as thugs, Burmese regime, by blocking multilateral sanctions and providing substantial economic and military assistance to the Burmese government. China is Burma's largest trading partner, and it is estimated that China controls more than 60% of the Burmese economy and has provided close to $3 billion in military aid since the early 1990s. Simply said, this Burmese regime would not have the strength and power that it has absent the support of China. We are calling on China to use its influence to bring about a political negotiation with the pro-democracy activists. This is a golden opportunity for China to show that it can be a force for peace and stability in the world. In the last few weeks, we all know that we have seen an extraordinary turn of events in Burma. Courageous people. Now, this has been there for a long time. The repression has been there for a long time. But in these last few weeks, courageous people, led by Buddhist monks, have taken to the streets to stand up to a corrupt, illegitimate military regime that has repressed the country for nearly 20 years. The ruthless crackdown is outrageous, and the international community must not stand by while peaceful protesters are arrested, beaten, and murdered. Let there be no doubt that the United States stands with the freedom-seeking people of Burma in their just cause. President Bush is to be commended for supporting tougher sanctions on those responsible for the gross violations of human rights. We can and should go further in bringing diplomatic pressure to bear on the regime. I know we all look forward to working closely with the President on this as we go forward. And so, my colleagues, I again commend Aung San Suu Kyi, as she years ago called on individuals, organizations, and groups to support Burma's democracy movement. And at that time, she said, "Please use your liberty to promote ours." Today, on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, we are doing just that. I commend Aung San Suu Kyi for her courage and her leadership. The people of Burma are rising up and demanding their country back. The world must meet this challenge to our conscience. Thank you again, Mr. Lantos, Mr. Smith, all of my colleagues in a bipartisan way in support of democracy in Burma. With that, I yield back the balance of my time, Madam Speaker.